I'm Jennifer Kirk, and I'm going to talk about litter and the effect that it has on wildlife. Every year, more than 8 million tons of plastic are dumped into the ocean. That's the equivalent of one garbage truck full of plastic per minute. At this rate, by the year 2050, there will be more plastic than fish in the ocean if you go by weight. Litter is slowly destroying our planet and killing our wildlife. Though we may not feel the effects directly impact our lives, it can have devastating impacts on our lives and on the environment. Today, I will explain how litter can affect both. First, I will discuss how litter can affect wildlife habitats. I'll talk about why it affects the animals, how it affects the animals, and how it affects humans. And then I'll talk about what we can do to help protect the planet. It's important to understand how litter affects the environment, and to help us understand that, I've defined two important habitat elements. Benthic means anything associated with or occurring on the bottom of a body of water, such as a lake, river, or ocean. Benthos are the plants and animals that live on the bottom of the lakes, oceans, and rivers. According to the United States Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, as debris accumulates, it can cause habitat alteration. These alterations include light level reduction and oxygen depletion, which can cause species decline. EPA further explains PBTs, which are persistent bioaccumulative and toxic substances. PBTs are resistant to degradation, highly mobile within the environment, and have a high degree of toxicity, and they build up within a single organism. Organisms that are within higher levels on the food chain show an increasing amount of PBTs because they are constantly eating PBTs that are embedded in their prey tissue. A great example is coral reefs, which are home to 25% of marine life, including many threatened and endangered species. If coral is exposed to plastic, the chances of coral becoming diseased increase from 4% to 89%. Now that I've discussed how litter affects wildlife habitats, I'll discuss two types of litter and explain how they affect wildlife and why they affect wildlife. The Center for Biological Diversity states that Americans alone use 100 billion plastic bags a year, and only 1% of those are returned for recycling. Plastic bags can take 500 years or more to degrade. However, they don't fully degrade. They become microplastics, which are tiny pieces of plastic. They continue to absorb toxins and pollute the environment. The Earth Day Network says plastics have even been found in one of the most remote places on Earth, 11 kilometers deep into the ocean. Cigarette filters, or butts, are made of a plastic called cellulose acetate. National Geographic says about 6.5 trillion cigarettes are bought each year by smokers, which is approximately 18 billion per day. Only 1/3 of those make it into the trash, while the rest are flicked out windows and onto the streets, eventually ending up in our waterways and into the oceans. Cigarette butts are near the top of the list of litter found during beach cleanups. And even e-cigarette cartridges have started showing up on the top of those lists as well. Like plastic bags, cigarette filters also degrade into microplastics. These microplastics leak nicotine, heavy metals, and other chemicals the filter has absorbed into soil and waterways. According to the Center of Biological Diversity, plastic debris affects 267 global species, 86% of sea turtles, 44% of seabirds, and 43% of marine mammals are among those affected. Approximately 100,000 marine animals are killed by plastic bags every year. The question is why. Many marine animals cannot tell the difference between a plastic bag and food. Take this image for example. Turtles often mistake plastic bags for jellyfish, which is one of their main sources of food. Animals that eat plastics often starve. They cannot digest the plastic, and it takes up room in their stomachs, preventing them from eating real food. Once turtles eat plastic, they're unable to throw it up, and according to CNBC, just over 1 dozen pieces of ingested plastic is enough to kill a turtle. Predatory animals, such as fur seals, can be indirectly affected by the plastic as well, by eating prey which has ingested plastic. Litter not only impairs feeding capacity and cause starvation, it can also decrease body weight, decrease mobility, inhibit fat deposition, reduce the ability to reproduce, and it can cause death, not only by starvation, but also by strangulation. But how does it affect humans? It can degrade recreational and commercial fishing. Fishing lines and nets wrap around propellers and become intertwined in intakes of motors. Large debris can damage hulls and propellers if struck. Litter can become a safety and health hazard by becoming homes for pests such as mosquitoes, flies, rats, and mice, which spread disease. According to the Occupational, Environmental, and Construction Safety Experts, or OSCA, food wrappers contain grease-repelling chemicals. When improperly disposed of, these chemicals can get into our food and water supplies. This can cause changes in growth, learning, and behavior. It can also decrease fertility. Litter can also reduce tourism. Scuba divers can get tangled in fishing nets and fishing lines, which is actually quite common, and sometimes this has even resulted in death. Beachgoers can step on sharp debris accumulated on the beach, such as hypodermic needles. In fact, in 1988, medical debris were found on beaches in New York and New Jersey, and the beaches were closed to the public due to a human health risk. These closures caused a loss in revenue between $708 million and $3 billion. Now that I've given you some devastating facts, I'll tell you how you can help protect the planet. According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, there are 10 easy ways to help protect Earth. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Reduce what you throw away. Reuse what you can. This helps conserve landfill space. Shopping wisely by use reusable shopping bags instead of the store-provided plastic bags. You can volunteer, get involved with your community, participate in beach cleanups, environment cleanups. Using non-toxic chemicals for cleaning, this prevents harmful chemicals from entering our waterways. Planting trees. Trees have many benefits. They not only provide food, oxygen, and home for animals, they also help combat climate change. They can save energy and even clean the air. Choose sustainable seafood. According to Fish Watch, sustainable seafood is fish and shellfish caught for human consumption by fishermen operating under sustainable fishery management systems. Fish Watch also says the United States imports more than 80% of the seafood we eat. If you look on the label of your seafood at the store, it will tell you where your seafood came from. Education. If you educate yourself, you can educate others. Using energy efficient light bulbs because they reduce greenhouse emissions. In addition to the energy efficient light bulbs, you should turn off lights when leaving a room or your house. Bike more, drive less. As we all know, driving pollutes the air. If you drive less, that's less pollution in the air. And finally, conserving water means less runoff, which typically ends in oceans. To review, I first talked about how litter impacts our natural habitats. I then talked about how litter affects humans and animals. And lastly, I talked about ways to help protect the planet. In conclusion, our planet is being destroyed and our wildlife is being killed by the carelessness of humans. Though we may not directly feel the impacts, we are impacted indirectly in many different ways. We now know what litter is doing to our wildlife, our animals, and our planet. We also know several changes we can make to improve the outlook of our planet. We all just need to jump on board and do our part.